Jim, it is an administration that seems to have incompetence on parade, incompetence and fealty to Trump on parade in ways that we have never seen. I think this does constitute an unprecedented rogues gallery of those things. Don't you agree in American
Well, and
government?
Janine Pirro is certainly the latest example, and your viewer there, hit it on the head. She's been rumored to be a drunk. I think I don't know if we can prove that, but they make fun of her on Saturday Night Live as being a drunk. And the tax issue, if I understand it correctly, was her husband, who was convicted and then pardoned by President Trump for tax evasion. I don't think it actually touched her directly, but her husband certainly had issues with it. And from what I understand, her work in the Westchester courts of New York was not exemplary either. She wasn't very good, and then she ran for Senate and lost in the primary, and kind of then went to the Fox holding pen until Trump won, and then he's I don't know if they're going to have anybody left on Fox, but he keeps appointing those people with no experience and just experience on the radio, but on the television. But it's another example. I mean, you have the defense secretary who has no experience whatsoever. Uh, he is releasing battle plans. He's fighting about the words. He says it wasn't a war plan, but it was a battle plan. It was an attack plan. You can't really avoid that. Pam Bondi, as the attorney general, it would be funny. It would be a joke if it wasn't real. I mean, her, you know, genuflecting toward the president and doing whatever it is his whim is at the moment is dangerous in the hands of an attorney general. Yes, this Trump administration is the most inept, incompetent, and dangerous. They'd be even more dangerous if they were competent. And now you've got, besides there's Pam Bondi, you've got the latest information from Washington is that Stephen Miller, his domestic advisor, is going to shortly become the national security advisor, who is, you know, equal to the State Department. That's it's ridiculous. Stephen Miller is not only stupid, he's dangerous. He's from Santa Monica. He grew up. He's Jewish. He's a self-hating Jew who is against all minorities. But supposedly, according to the book written about him, and I read the book, an Hispanic girl in high school turned him down, which turned him against all Latinos, and that's one of the reasons why he wants to deport everybody. I
Wow.
mean, that's the kind
That's
of
the
silly
origin
stuff
story
we're
on it.
dealing with.
Yeah.
It's just
But I mean, the plan though on these deportees is brutally cruel, and I'm not suggesting that if you're getting MS-13 violent offenders out of America, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, and I think most Americans, and this is one of the problems, agree with that. But the problem becomes we don't know whether these people are MS-13 or violent offenders at all, do we, Jim? I mean, there was no due process, and I've said on this show many times, and I'll say it again. That guy, Garcia, is not coming back because he represents a mistake on the part of this administration, even as he should come back and he should be given due process. I have no idea whether he's a good guy or bad guy. I don't have no idea, but neither does anybody else because he never had any kind of due process. And so the workaround that they've found on this is incredible. And the fact that they're defying the courts on his return, that's a sign, I think. That's a real sign of more defiance on the part of this administration.
Well, he said it in the Kristen Welker interview at NBC on NBC Meet the Press. He was asked directly, "Do you have to follow the Constitution?" And he wouldn't answer. He said, "Well, I don't really know. That's for other people to decide." He's putting it on his lawyers. uh, claiming that he's taking legal advice, and it's not his as president to decide whether he has to follow the Constitution, even though he put his hand on the Bible, which he doesn't really believe in, and said that he would uphold the Constitution when he was sworn in. This guy is an embarrassment, and how how he was voted for in the first place. I think we understand. The border issue had gotten out of hand for the Democrats. The economy had the Republicans are great at changing the narrative. And even though the economy, unemployment's at 4%, the stock market is raging, people have money to spend, and consumer confidence is up. They turn that around somehow into saying, well, egg prices are up, because there was the bird flu, egg prices were up. So, and they turned that into an economy issue that really wasn't there. And he won because of the economy and promising that he would bring down the price of eggs and the price of groceries. He said the word groceries like he'd never been to a store. But he hasn't done any of that. He said he would end the wars. Americans don't like the fact, and nobody likes the fact that we're having to give Ukraine lots of money to stand them up against Russia. But it's better than sending troops over there, and that's what the Biden administration was doing. And Trump said he was going to end that war, and he didn't, and he hasn't. And the Russians are still killing people by the thousands over there and striking. And then Gaza, he hasn't done it. Gaza's terrible. I mean, it's like like it's been hit by a nuclear weapon, and he won't stop Israel from doing it, and he won't stop the war there at all. He can't stop the war there. So all those promises that got him elected are gone now, and he is flailing, and his popularity is going way down. So,
I mean, his popularity, it's interesting, Jim, just to pick up on that. His
Yeah.
popularity was never over the moon, right? He won a
it was
plurality.
49%, I guess.
All right, so
48%.
49%. I mean, I can play that game. It's down to 45. Depending on your on the poll that you look at, you see an erosion of his popularity. I'm sure it will erode further, but you're the one who said it. I mean, where's the Avila? The 30.
There's always been in this country 30 to 35%.
I think it's going to get back down to that.
Yeah, in other words, it's going to drift down to that that level of support. You think it'll be just his diehards? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's losing the independents like crazy. I'm still hurt by the fact that it doesn't seem as though Americans are going to vote for a woman, and a black woman especially. And I think that hurt Kamala Harris. Now, did it hurt her by 3 or 4 points among Latino men? Yeah, I think it did, and among black men too, who would not support a black woman. And that is a shame, and we ought to be embarrassed about that. And I think that was part of the reason why Kamala Harris lost. It's ultimately a better candidate. Certainly Hillary Clinton would have been a better president than Donald Trump. But we won't vote for a woman. So that puts us in a bad position as we go forward, because I'd like to see I think it's time we get a woman as a president, but I don't think
some of
that's
the
going to
best
happen.
candidates have been women, without question. I was saying before that leaves us way behind the rest of the developed world. I mean, this bias that we have toward men. Angela Merkel, Scheinbaum in Mexico. There are more examples in the developed world of women taking. I remember being struck by this a few years ago. I think it was in Latin America, that they voted in a president who was a woman and an atheist, an avowed atheist. And I thought to myself, there is no way an atheist ever wins the presidency in America. There is just such look at what Trump has to do, this performative thing with the Bible and with the Christians and, all of this. I mean, there is you have to pretend. I think Reagan on some level was pretending. I mean,
Yeah.
So my point is simply, I think these biases are so baked into the American culture. I don't know how we break free of it, but you're right. It's handicapped our ability to get good leadership.
Yeah, it has. And look at Mexico. That's a female Jew who was
Right. In
president
a country
of.
dominated by Catholicism.
Yeah. And so would that happen in the United States? I find it. I mean, Shapiro, who's a great candidate, is we're all a little shaky because he's Jewish, and that is could he win? Will he lose 2 or 3 points? And in the way things are tight right now, you can't lose 2 or 3 points, even if it's for a stupid racist reason. You can't do that. So it looks like the Democrats, from a political commentator place, which is where I'm at, is going to have to pick a white male in order to win back the presidency. Then let's see what happens in 4 to 8 years. Then maybe after the Democrats have gotten back in power, maybe they can get a woman to succeed whoever is the president this time. But it's unfortunate, but I think it's going to have to be a white male.
Yeah, it's like a kind of deal with it situation. That's sort of who we are, sadly.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the trade deal that Trump is peacocking about, having made a deal with Great Britain, although it doesn't appear that there was really yeah, I got it. He didn't put his hand on the Bible. Thank you, June. You're absolutely right, June. When you said he had his hand on the Bible, she didn't believe, he actually did not put his hand on the Bible. It's true. The Bible thing, I get it. It's a tradition. A lot of things are traditions, from I don't know. On the Bible he was Bible adjacent, whatever. The guy took the oath was the point, and he is
he raised his right hand.
Yes, I mean, the oath is it's performative, and so it is with the trade deal. I think there's a performative aspect to the announcement that we've made a deal, everything's great. There's a shot of him. I don't know how this trade thing goes down. It strikes me as a shakedown of all of these different countries. We've touched on this before. There is a sense of an emerging patronage where these countries, all of whom have been hit with all of these different tariffs, have to come to him personally, and then they have to work something out. They have to give Donald Trump something in order to get tariff relief. The most outstanding example to me is Vietnam. 46% tariffs. Vietnam said, we'll drop all tariffs against the U.S., and we are fast-tracking and dropping all of the impediments to you building Trump Tower and a Trump resort in Vietnam. I mean, that's straight up pay to play, right? And this, I think, is being repeated over and over. Now, I don't know what degree that's included in this UK tariff deal, a deal like that. But what I'm saying is, overall, just generally, Jim, it seems as though this is a system of patronage that he is building in.
Well, he said as much. I mean, he said, all these countries are coming and kissing my ass. That was his quote, kissing my ass. And that is exactly what he wants. That's the reason why he's there, for the power. We don't know what the details are on the UK deal. We'll I guess find out eventually, but right now we don't know. And as you're having the bottom line there, automakers are already calling it out because it does allow some imports of British cars. I would suspect we're talking about Land Rovers more than anything else, going to be flooding into the country with less of a.
And there are no tariffs on the Rolls Royces, apparently, literally none. Yeah.
Well, that's not going to help. Not going to hurt too many people, but
no. But it's just sort of like one of those weird things. Why do you do that? Yeah.
They also sell American plane makers.
That's right.
Engines.
That's exactly
Boeing.
Right. Engines for aviation. Yeah.
So that's one thing that's going to be. We're going to see. What we have to wait for, and what happened to this big announcement was supposed to happen by today. Wasn't there supposed to be a big announcement he was talking about that hasn't
I
come
think
across?
he also says it might come on Monday, is what he was saying. Also,
Okay.
yeah, he's
All right, we got to
yeah,
wait over the weekend now.
yeah,
But
yeah,
when we hear that there's a deal with China and India, that's when we will know whether or not this trade war is over or just beginning. The Britain one, yeah, it's important, and Europe is important too. But China's our biggest trading partner. India is way up there. Mexico's like way up there. And when we hear details of how those are happening, then we'll know more about it. But in the meantime, if those tariffs continue, if those ships are on the way
right.
with tariff goods on them, we're going to start paying more money. Yes, it's going to be for dolls. Your toys are going to be more expensive, and he trivialized that. And it is kind of trivia, but food prices are going to go up. All kinds of prices are going to go up for electronics and things like that. So, what he's doing to our economy, in just, what is it, 100 days, 110 days, is incredible. Nobody thought, I didn't think that he could destroy it in this quickly. But he is destroying it and very quickly. And, the question is, and I think this is a question you've had, Mark, is how long this damage will last. Is there anything we can do to turn it around quickly? Or are we going to be stuck in stagflation? We've got inflation already, but we're going to have stagflation, which means that there's high unemployment and high inflation at the same time. Those are things that are really going to hurt this country, and he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. This guy inherited, as you've just sort of alluded to earlier, the best economy in the world, and he's trashed it in that 110 days to which you've referred. Donald Trump has floated cutting tariffs now, Jim, on China from 145% to 80%. And the major meeting is going down this weekend. He's looking to perhaps de-escalate the trade war with this announcement. Top U.S. officials are expected to meet at a high-level Chinese delegation this weekend in Switzerland. It's the first significant talk between America and China since Trump provoked this trade war with stiff tariffs on imports. The U.S. president wrote, 80% tariff on China seems right, up to Scott B. He wrote that on his social media account. Of course, Besant is the guy who is trying to clean up the mess that Trump has created. Watching Besant do the two-step and trying to justify the tariffs to begin with is entertaining, were it not so alarming. But
Yeah.
both Besant and Jameson Greer, the U.S. trade reps, are going to meet in Geneva this weekend. So, again, Trump willy-nilly just announcing, he's clearly trying to de-escalate the thing with China when he makes that announcement. But willy-nilly making these announcements and making these pronouncements and decision-making on policy that doesn't seem to reflect any kind of real analysis. It's more just, what he's feeling at the moment.
Yeah. It is. It's pulling stuff out of his rear end, and he, then posts them on his Truth Social, and it becomes policy, and it's really dangerous. And we've seen how dangerous it is because of what he's done to the economy already. So yes, he is backpedaling. He's attempting to end the trade war that he started. It's like a fireman who starts a fire to put it out. It's really damaging to this country and irresponsible. And I don't know what, the big question has been for Democrats, and I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say about this, Mark, is that a lot of Democrats don't believe tariffs is the issue because they believe that tariffs are too hard for the public to understand and they just kind of block it out. So they haven't really taken him on as effectively as they could. A lot of Democrats, Schumer just sitting on his hands, doing nothing, and leaving it to the likes of AOC and Bernie Sanders to go out there and complain and politic. and I guess Newsom to some extent with his podcast is out there talking, and Pritzker is talking, and Pritzker is urging other Democrats to come out and set the place on fire, but they're not. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries what is he doing? Nothing. It's really a shame, and I don't know that strategy is going to work.
I think that it's interesting too that they'd have an aversion to talking about tariffs when I actually think tariffs is the one thing you really can get traction on. The thing that I think is a more difficult political subject to bring up and make a political win is still a critically important one. It's the one that we touched on first. That's the due process due all people in the U.S. I mean, that it relates to these immigrants who are here either illegally, undocumented, whatever, and have been spirited away to El Salvador. Then they're talking about now Libya. They make, these, and a lot of these people are on these planes. There was no due process, and they were just day laborers. There's nothing. I mean, there's I think a lot of evidence that a lot of the people who are being deported fall into this category of, gosh, I just was here undocumented. I didn't do anything. I don't have a criminal record of any kind. So anyway, that issue about El Salvador, as you know, the Democrats specifically said, don't go to El Salvador anymore. They told their various delegations, this is a loser for us, this immigration thing. People want these, what are perceived as bad guys, out of the country, and they don't really care about the due process part. And we're wrapping ourselves around a conversation about who this Brego Garcia is, as opposed to the question of due process. So they've decided that's a net loser. Okay, but then to your point, tariffs, that is a net winner. That is turning the economy on its side. All economists agree on this. Even Bessent, as he goes out and has to rep it on the White House lawn, does this tortured two-step. So I don't know why, I don't see why the political party of the opposition, the Democrats, can't wrap themselves around tariffs and the trashing of the economy that Trump is going to do. And by the way, it'll be a lot easier to do, don't you think, Jim, in about a month, and in 90 days, it will be incredibly easy to do, because we're going to be then you'll see the ripple effect of these tariffs.
Yeah. So to your first point, I don't think people understand. There's still too much dispute, not among real economists, but again, the Republican propaganda machine, that tariffs are not going to cost Americans, okay? That tariffs are going to cost China. They believe that, okay? So tariffs themselves is a difficult issue, I believe. You're right. Prices, the economy, what it's going to do to our grocery prices and to the prices of things you buy. In 30 days, when those things are way up, and when those ships get here with very expensive material for Christmas, that's going to be an issue for the Democrats to seize on. And that is the right issue. As far as the deportation issue, it's unfortunate, but you're right. Americans thought during the election, well, he's not going to come after me, so this deportation thing is okay. Even Latinos who are here legally, my relatives, have no sympathy, or have little sympathy, for those who are here illegally. Now, sorry about the airplane.
No, we really can't hear it too badly, so it sounds worse for you. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I believe that myself, that those who are illegally here or not, who are here and without papers or undocumented, and who are not breaking the law and are contributing to our society, picking our crops, cooking our food, cleaning our houses, those folks should be left alone. And that hasn't happened. Totally innocent people are being dragged out of their homes and put on planes to other places, including in the future to Libya. That just makes no sense whatsoever. It is cruel. And I'm, I'm disappointed in Americans that they allow that to happen. Is it a bad issue for the Democrats? Probably, because the deportation still gets high marks in polls. But it's still wrong. You know, in the due process issue that you bring up, you know, if we can explain that correctly, I guess it might resonate with some people. You know, Democrats are trying to push that, using this guy who's in Venezuela. I mean, who's in El Salvador now, the Venezuelan who's in El Salvador, who's not supposed to have been sent there. You know, these people, the ones who, you know, who are here and committing crimes, nobody is against them being deported. And ICE was deporting them before Trump got here anyway.
Sure.
The Biden administration was deporting those folks. You know, this.
There's a performative aspect to this, not to interrupt, but there's a performative aspect and a theater to a lot of what Trump does. And the spiriting away of these people to El Salvador and marking them all as Venezuelan, as part of a Venezuelan gang, it was, I think, part of that theater. And so, I mean, even the tariffs, there's a lot of theater to it. He likes to play president, and he does have these very strong feelings. I mean, that I don't know what they're informed by, but I feel like a lot of that falls into that category, and people buy that theater, and that's kind of what you're saying, that people are going, yeah, those bad guys, you should get them out of here. Well, most of the people that he's scooping up aren't bad guys. It would seem they went into a couple of Washington high-end restaurants. I had this story yesterday on the show. 9 agents from immigration go into a high-end restaurant in Washington, D.C. I mean, imagine this. I mean, I say imagine this because this is an establishment that is paying a high rent. You got to pay a lot of money for stuff on the menu. Everything's very like hoity-toity. And all of a sudden, ICE agents show up. They want to see I-9 forms on everybody who works there. So this is a chilling effect. It's sort of Gestapo-like. And it's affecting not criminal gang members, but somebody who's working in the kitchen washing dishes.
And of course, there's the other layer to this, is that was because it's that restaurant was owned by a CBS correspondent's husband. Is that because he's in such a battle with CBS? Was that also part of it as well? He's using government agents for his political endeavors, and Pam Bondi is right there with him, and so is the borders are, and those people will do whatever he says, and they're not picking up. You know, if that starts happening in Los Angeles, you know, and in California, where they start raiding high-end restaurants or any restaurant, whether it's high-end or not, the line cooks
sure
are Mexican American or Mexican. That's just the way it is. Or they're El Salvadoran or something else. They're Latinos. That's
the line
who does
cooks, the construction workers. It goes on and on. Yeah, I see now that we're way late. I'm so sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
We got to wrap up.
It's good.
Please mention your Barrett News column, and we are going to link to it at the bottom of this video. You've been writing. Is it a weekly column, right?
Yeah, I write a weekly column. Comes out on Thursday, and it's on the mixture of politics and media. This week I write about what my picks are for you to watch and listen to, and the Mark Thompson Show is on there.
Oh, that's great! I love hearing that. There it is, Jim Avila, Barrett
right
Media.
there.
All right, we'll link to it. We'll link to it under this video, and we look forward to our next conversation. Thanks, my friend. Be well.
Okay, see you, Mark.
See you. Jim Avila, everybody.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.